You ever notice how people love talking about starting a business until it's time to actually start on? On Instagram, it looks like, sipping a coffee in Bali, right? Typing a few emails, somehow money just shows up in your account. Here's the deal. Starting a business is like signing up for a marathon in the middle of a storm while carrying a backpack full of rocks. Because the finish line, every time you feel like you are getting closer, it moves very far away from you. Now, today, I'm sharing the truth nobody tells you in a startup event or even in a motivational speech. These are the lessons that me, myself, I've learned the hard way through late nights, tough decisions, and even moments where quitting felt easier than continuing. If you have been thinking about starting your own business, this episode might save you years of frustration. And if you're already in the trenches like me, then you're going to feel same. First of all, let's talk about the myths and the reality. Because if you debunk the myths and the reality, that will allow you to understand the business a little bit more. Because the first myth that people talk about is, start your own business and you have freedom, money, and control over your life. That's pretty much what everyone says. And that's partly true eventually. But the reality is, in the beginning, you have less freedom, less money, and also way more stress than you had in your 9 to 5 job. That's the reality of business. When I launched Sasu, I had this vision where in my head, clients, loading in many leads as possible, a team doing most of the work, me focusing on big ideas. But the truth is, by month 3, I was working 16 hours a day, chasing unpaid invoices, fixing website bugs because I had experience in software development, writing marketing copy, and taking sales call from my car because I didn't have an office yet. The gap between expectations and reality is where most founders give up. They think if it is hard work, maybe it's not for me. But that's exactly the stage you have to push through. It's not just me. Even Jeff Bezos started Amazon in his garage, driving boxes to the post office himself. Sarah Bakery, founder of Spanx, spent 2 years selling out her apartment before she could hire anyone. Now, let's talk about the 5 harsh truths in business. When you start a business, people tell you that you'll be your own boss, right? You have more free time to do whatever you want. Here's the thing. When you are the boss, you can't clock out. The business lives in your head 24 hours, right? 24/7. I remember my first year, I worked through birthday, skipped vacations, and even took my laptop to a wedding reception just in case a client emailed. That might sound extreme to some people, and I understand it, but in the beginning, you are the business. If you stop, everything stops. This is why new founders often burn out. They think entrepreneurship means less work, but the truth is, you will work more, but you'll be building something that is yours. So the takeaway is this: before you start, ask yourself, am I ready to work harder than I've ever worked in my whole life for at least 2 or 3 years to top 5 years? If the answer is no, then that's okay. Just don't lie to yourself that you can be a business owner, right? Or you have what it takes. Truth number 2 is cash flow is king. I can't stress this enough. Revenue is nice, but cash flow is survival. I've seen startups land 6 figures deal and still shut down because they didn't manage their cash. Client pay late, unexpected costs may come up in business, you never know. I remember one time a client delayed a payment for 2 months, and suddenly I was staring at a payroll, wondering how I'd pay my team. That's when I learned the hard lesson. Always keep cash caution, right? Because even Apple, with billions of revenue, keeps a huge cash reserves. Why? Because in business, things can change overnight. So my biggest takeaway from this is track every dollar in and out, have at least 3 months of operating expenses saved up. And even if to me, it means, paying yourself less at first, then you have to do it because you are the founder, you are the business owner, right? Cash flow is king. Truth number 3 is your friends and family may not understand. This one stings because when you start, you expect your inner cycle to cheer you on, right? But sometimes they will doubt you even more They question your decisions and suddenly wait for you to fail. That's what happens for most of the people. Most of people who are close to you, they don't understand why you're becoming a business owner or even a founder for that matter. So I remember telling a friend about my business idea, and he said, that's risky. Why not just get a secure job? He meant well, but it felt like a punch in my gut, right? Because this is why you need a network of other founders. That's what we do here at Founders Corner, because only they understand the emotional roller coaster you are on. So my biggest takeaway for you is that don't expect validation from people who never built something themselves, or even something that you want to achieve. You can learn from them, but you can't just take validation from them, because that means you are blindly following what they have never achieved. So surround yourself with those who have what you want to have. Another thing is that you are the chief everything officer, not just executive. You're the chief everything officer. At the start of the business, you do everything: sales, marketing, operations, customer services, accounting, even cleaning your own desk, right? And I used to joke that my job title was CEO, but not chief executive officer, but chief everything officer, because this is exhausting, and it's also the best crash course in business you ever get. By the time you can hire help, you will know exactly how every part of a company works. As a business owner, I want you to embrace chaos, but also start documenting the processes early on. That way, when you hire someone, you don't hand over the headaches, you hand over the systems. So you have to need to have some SOPs already integrated in your business, standard operating procedures, and also in the onboarding process, you don't just give people headaches, right? You give them systems so that every new employee who comes into your business, they know the best way to do the job, right? They have like a roadmap of everything. Now, truth number 5 is that it's a roller coaster of emotions. One day, you're on the top of the road when you start a business. Then the next day, you're wondering if you made a huge mistake. This whiplash is normal. Even Elon Musk has admitted to crying himself to sleep during the Tesla early days. The key is emotional resilience, learning to not get high on the wins or too crushed by the losses. Develop a habit that keeps you grounded: journaling, exercising, mentors, because your mind is your greatest asset in this game. Now, let's talk about how to survive the harsh truth. So, how do you make through all of this, right? Because first of all, what you need to do, you need to build a support network. Find mentors, join founder groups, get around people who understand the grind. The second thing, you need to manage your energy, not just time, but burnout comes from emotional drain, not just hours work. And also, the fourth thing you need to keep in mind, keep a reserve of cash. It's a safety net when things go wrong. And lastly, celebrate small wins. They keep you motivated through the hard days. So starting a business is the hardest thing you will ever do in your life. And it's also the most rewarding thing you ever do. So you grow faster as a person in a year of entrepreneurship than in 5 years at a regular job. That's just the truth. So if you are thinking about starting, go in with your eyes open. If you're already in, remember, you are not alone in the struggle. And I want you just to share this episode with another founder who is in the grind right now. And as always, keep building, keep learning, and keep pushing forward. See you next time.